Florida can be a retirement dream, but for a local couple, it's turned into a nightmare.
It all had to do with who they hired to build their pool. Wink News Call for Action reporter Lindsey joins us. So, Lindsey, what did you find out?
Well, Chris and Lois, we started to do a little bit of digging into the supposed contractor Rita Fitro hired. We discovered he's a repeat offender.
Food, drinks, friends, and fun. That's what we're looking forward to doing.
Rita Fitro can finally see a light at the end of the tunnel.
We just wanted to make our home our castle.
She's finally getting her dream pool built by a company she has full faith in, after she says the original company she hired left her high and dry.
It's been 10 months, you're out 11 grand, and you have nothing to show for it.
That's correct.
How does that make you feel?
Actually, embarrassed.
But the real person who should be embarrassed is Zlatan Krakic, or Goldie. In January, Rita hired Goldie's company, Croat Pavers of Florida, to do the pavers in her driveway, her pool, and pool cage, all for the price of 54 grand.
We spent about 3 hours with him, and we felt very comfortable. He was very knowledgeable.
What the Fitros didn't know, Goldie Krakic was known to local code enforcement officers. He's been cited 13 times in Lee County for various violations, more than once because he didn't have a license to do the work. Over the years, Goldie's hired someone who does have a license so he could do construction. But for whatever reason, those relationships all ended in June when Rita wanted her pool started.
One delay after the other, through the whole period of time.
Since he didn't have a license to operate under, he couldn't do Rita's pool, so the work got delayed. Sick of getting the runaround, Rita asked for her $11,000 down payment back, but says Goldie kept stalling.
He's a very deceptive person. He comes in and says, that he can do things that he's actually not qualified legally to do.
So we went to find Goldie. His showroom in the Cape was scattered with pavers but looked deserted. We stopped by his house, but he wasn't there.
Rita's going on camera and saying, don't ever hire this man because he can't be trusted.
Finally, we got in touch with him by phone.
The resolution is you're going to give them their money back? When is that going to happen?
Goldie told me he would give the Fitros their money back within 7 days. But I also wanted to know about this form, which appears he filed fraudulently. This notifies the city he was going to work on Rita's pool, but he used a different company's name.
First you tell me that it was okay to file that form, and now you're telling me probably not. Can you get your story straight so I know what to say? They did not give you permission for that particular job. Okay. So why'd you do it?
Goldie didn't have a response for that. He did say he was working on getting a license, but refused to tell me how or under what company name. As for Rita,
we watch Wink News, and we felt comfortable calling you folks, feeling that at least if it were broadcast on air, that more people would be made aware.
We talked to Rita today, and she is still waiting to get her money back, but she wants everyone to know to make sure you properly vet any contractor coming into your home, a lesson she learned the hard way. In the last hour, I did a Facebook Live with code enforcement officials asking what you should ask before you bring a contractor into your home. You can find that whole discussion on my Wink News Facebook page. I'm Call for Action reporter Lindsey Wink News Now.
In 15 years that I'm doing this, like 15,000 jobs. And I have 2 or 3 unhappy customers.
He says 2 or 3 unhappy customers. All new at 6, a Wink News Call for Action investigation into this man, Zlatan Goldie Krakic. Now, he told us less than a week ago he had thousands of happy customers, despite the unhappy ones we're finding. But as Wink News Call for Action reporter Lindsey is uncovering those thousands of happy customers, well, that might not be the case.
Chris, after our first story about Goldie and his business, Croat Pavers, aired, we received phone calls and emails from people who say Goldie took their money and left them with a mess.
Died of amyloidosis, which is a rare blood disorder that destroys your heart.
With her husband gone and her heart in need of healing, Jerry Cameron says she tried to find solace in her newly purchased home in Cape Coral.
All I wanted was to have a little house with a pool.
Instead,
the last 2 years have been an absolute nightmare.
All because Jerry said she met this man, Zlatan Goldie Krakic of Croat Pavers of Florida.
He would say to me, I can't bring your husband back, but you can trust me and I will help you with this project. I mean, he conned me because my husband had died.
In October of 2014, Cameron signed a contract with Goldie. For $60,000, she was going to get a pool cage, and fence around her yard. Her records show that she paid half of that, $30,000, up front on that same day she signed her contract.
He put tremendous pressure on me to pay him up front.
And every new project that came up after, Cameron said Goldie required her to pay in full up front.
I got to a point where he had more money and I was trying not to upset him. And so I was like under the gun.
By the time Goldie was finished, Cameron had paid him $167,000.
I feel like life is just not, is not very good right now. And, sometimes I wonder if it's even worth living when you feel so violated.
In total, Cameron says Goldie took her for $47,000.
He is a smooth man.
Including $22,000 for hurricane impact windows that she's had to pay again for someone else to do. $14,000 for a fence she's also paying again for someone else to do. And $3,000 for a pool finish she never got. Not to mention all the work she says had to be fixed, costing her thousands more. I asked Goldie about all the work Cameron paid for, but says he never did.
Everything that we have paid for is done, so, that's not true.
Well, I have proof that it's not a lie.
Paper after paper shows what Cameron paid for and when. Proof she says Goldie is the one not telling the truth.
I don't know how I'm ever going to get out of it.
I reached out to Goldie again about Jerry Cameron's issues today, and he told me he never intended to stop work at her home and that she texted him saying he was not welcome on her property anymore. He also said that he met with her in the city to try to resolve those issues, but those discussions broke down after he claims he was threatened by her brother-in-law. Chris and Lois, I have included a full statement on winknews.com underneath the story of what Goldie told me on the phone today.
And you're supposed to talk to him again?
That's right. He told he was going to be meeting me at 10:30 tomorrow morning, so we will bring you his side of the story as soon as we get that, if it happens.
All right. Thank you, Lindsay.
The last 2 years have been an absolute nightmare.
Last night, that woman came forward saying a local businessman took tens of thousands of dollars from her for work he never did. At least 3 of you talked to our Wink News Call for Action investigators about your experience with Croat Pavers and Zlatan Goldie Krakic. Now we're hearing from even more of you. All new tonight, Wink News Call for Action reporter Lindsey talked to the man who's behind and at the center of all of these allegations. What do you say?
Well, first of all, Chris, many people may remember that we talked to Rita Fitro and Jerry Cameron, who say Goldie took thousands from them and never did the work. I had a laundry list of questions for Goldie today. First, I wanted to know if he planned to refund Jerry Cameron. Will you give her money back for that?
Yeah,
$22,000?
32, just like to make her happy.
$32,000?
Yeah,
When can she get that money back?
like in couple years.
When?
Couple years.
But 4 minutes later,
Why can you not refund her the money? Why?
Because I have the materials for it.
Do you have invoices showing the
I
purchase for
have
the fence and the windows?
Absolutely.
Let's get those after this interview.
Okay.
Okay.
and then
A few minutes ago,
I just didn't-
you said that you were going to reimburse her $32,000 in a couple
No,
years.
that was just a joke.
That was a joke.
Not a joke, just like I was being sarcastic.
Then I asked Goldie about this man, Wade Hitzing, who emailed me after our first story aired on Goldie and his business, Croat Pavers. Wade says 2 years ago he paid Goldie $34,000 to do his driveway and lanai, which was done. But later, the company who supplied the materials contacted Wade, saying he needed to pay nearly $6,000 for materials Goldie never paid for.
Yesterday, I asked you about Mr. Wade Hitzing. You told me that part of that agreement was he had to pay for the materials.
Absolutely.
I got the invoice. You made a payment of $8,900 to them on May 1st. If he was supposed to pay for the materials, why are you paying for him?
For what?
For his driveway and his lanai.
So I showed him the invoices.
I paid the material for the original contract, what we signed the contract.
Where's the contract?
He asked for more and everything.
Where's the contract?
It's in my office.
When I pushed for that contract,
Maybe I don't have it anymore.
I thought it was in your
like
office.
why I cannot lose their contract if he can.
I thought it was in your office.
It is.
Oh, so it's in your office.
It is.
Okay.
But
Was that a joke too?
no,
Okay.
it is in my office.
I also wanted to know about these papers, which a company shows to prove it has workers' comp insurance. The city of Cape Coral confirmed Goldie gave these documents to 2 separate companies as proof he had insurance. The problem? These documents seem to be forged. One shows the policy's effective when in fact it's expired. The other shows someone put Croat Pavers' name as the insured, but this policy is for a different company.
So you have no idea who filed these
I
papers
have
in your
no idea.
company's name?
I have no idea.
Why would anybody file papers in your company's name for jobs that you are doing?
I don't know. You have to ask them.
At the end of all of this, Goldie refused to show me the invoices that he says shows he used Jerry Cameron's money to pay for materials. Instead, he said he had to go to work.
You don't have work to do right now. You don't have a qualifier. Where are you going to go work?
I'm going to go work where I have a qualifier, which is, Marco Island, Naples, Bonita Springs, and, the beach, Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, and Captiva.
Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, and Captiva are still Lee County.
Yeah,
In Lee County, you do not have a qualifier right now.
I do have.
Who is that?
It's my partner.
Who's your partner?
My partner.
Who is that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Goldie wanted me to see a video he has of Jerry Cameron, that homeowner that he says shows her happy with his work. In that video, she says, quote, she's a proud homeowner. I'm going to post that video on winknews.com underneath this story. Now, Goldie's wife is going before the Lee County Licensing Board right now to see if she can get her license so she can be his qualifier to do work in Lee County. I'll let you know what happens. I'm Call for Action reporter Lindsey Sablon, Wink News Now.
Hey, Nelica. I don't know.
All new tonight, a Cape Coral paving business may be out of luck. For the last week and a half, we've heard from people who say they were taken by Croat Pavers and its owner, Goldie Craikick.
Now, Wink News Call for Action reporter Lindsey Sablon has been on top of this story for several days. Lindsey, right now, Goldie doesn't have a license to work at any of these companies. He hoped to change that today.
That's right, Chris. Actually, was hoping last night his wife could get a license. Goldie Craikick's wife went before the Lee County Construction Board in hopes of getting her paving license in the county, but she was denied due to lack of in-field experience. The board spent several minutes questioning Nelica Craikick. If she would have been approved, her husband Goldie could have worked under her license. Our producer tried to talk to Nelica after last night's meeting.
You to come back and reapply? Nelica, are you going to reapply for your license now? Does this mean that Croat Pavers is done?
As you can see, she didn't have much to say. Now, yesterday, one of you called me saying Goldie is working on your home in the Cape right now. Just a reminder, he cannot be doing work on his own for anyone because, again, Chris and Lois, he is not licensed.
And we've heard from people this week you've introduced us who've lost, $10, $20, $40,000 from him. Have you heard from anybody who's actually happy with the work he's done?
I have. I heard from one man this morning, Ron Poland, who said that Goldie did 3 separate jobs for him. He said he was happy with all 3 jobs, but for at least one of those jobs, I could not find a permit for that job.
And if he's at your house right now, he doesn't have a license.
That's right.
New tonight, this woman that you see right here, she got back $10,000 after she found out the man she hired to build her pool wasn't allowed to do the work.
We want to thank Wink News and everybody that's helped us.
Wink News Call for Action reporter Lindsey Sablon has been investigating that man for more than a month. Why wasn't he allowed to do the work?
Well, Chris and Lois, he's not allowed to do the work because he's not licensed to do contracting work. For the last month, we've looked into Croat Pavers, and the man you saw right here, Goldie, that's the owner. Wink News first heard about Croat Pavers through Rita Fitro. She hired Goldie to build her pool at the beginning of the year, but when work got delayed, she started to do a little research and found out he wasn't licensed. Once we stepped in, Goldie promised Rita to give her her money back. We're happy to report the Fitros got their $10,000 back.
Tears in your eyes, like you didn't expect this day.
I didn't. I was really worried. He did. He's positive, and I'm kind of like on the edge, and it was, we were very happy, very happy.
After the Fitros story aired, several of you contacted Wink News about Croat Pavers. The most recent was the president of an HOA who says they paid Goldie for a job. But now there's a lien on their association because Goldie never paid the company who provided the materials.
I saw on Wink News that there was some people that were really stuck for a lot of money. Thousands of dollars.
Part-time resident Jerry Doubt reached out to Wink News Call for Action after watching person after person tell us how Goldie Craykick and Croat Pavers did them wrong.
And we kind of had a little problem with them ourselves.
Little may be modest. Back in April, Jerry's condo association hired Goldie to install pavers around the pool. The work started mid-July and Jerry made his final payment. But then,
around the 8th of September, we got notified that his check had bounced. So the pavers weren't paid for and that they were filing a lien. The lien was filed on September the 13th against us.
The paver company filed this lien in September because Goldie never paid for the materials. Since he didn't pay, the company has the right to come after the person where the work's being done. But Jerry says he paid Goldie for labor and supplies, a total of $7,410. So where did the money go?
That's a good question. What did he do with the money?
Now Jerry's condo association has to fork over an additional $2,400.
And I would obviously like to not have to pay for this extra amount of money because we paid for it once.
We reached out to Goldie and his lawyer about this situation, but they declined to comment. But this is also a good warning for anyone getting work done by a contractor. Make sure you always ask for a release of lien before you make that final payment. That way you're not on the hook if the contractor doesn't pay for the materials. Lois, back to you.